So welcome back. Another race ramble today. This time for the inaugural Hyderabad ePrix. So I thought that was a pretty exciting race, pretty chaotic, a lot of carnage. So we'll get right into it. So on lap 1, Evans was on pole. Vern was alongside on the front row. Now in qualifying, there had been some shenanigans with track limits. 3 of the drivers in the quarterfinals of the duels had actually gone over track limits, so their laps were deleted, which meant that Vern, who lost his quarterfinal, went directly to the final. So there's a lot of chaos there, and then on top of that, Hughes, who had qualified in the duels, then laps was deleted because he didn't spend enough time in the pits, so wasn't sure what was going on there. So pretty even start. Evans moved over right away to cover the inside into the hairpin, and behind that it was pretty even behind him. I noticed that both Dennis and Verline, the 2 championship leaders, they both dropped a couple places at the start. Cassidy overtook Bird at turn 3 for 6, and then kind of just taps Cassidy and outbreaks himself. Lap 2, Mortara lost his front wing at the hairpin, and looked like he basically tried to overtake Cassidy, I think, and then just kind of went too deep, knocked off his front wing, and then it came off later in the lap. So at this point, Dennis was up to 11th, and Verline was in 15th, Mortara stayed out and wasn't pitting, and eventually he came in, lap 5. Van Dorn had moved up 5 spots, so he was up in 12th place from starting 17th on the grid. And he was taking attack mode. There were yellow flags at turn 14 for the front wing that had come off from Mortara. Never great when the driver just stays out and then it breaks off and then you have a yellow flag on track. Much better for them just to go in the pits right away so that the race can stay under green flag conditions. Good. Alright, so lap 6, Dennis takes attack mode. I think he only dropped 1 place behind Roland at this point. Lap 7, this is kind of where the chaos starts. Boemi takes the lead as Evans takes attack mode. Commentators thought it was really too early to take attack mode, and they were giving up track position from pole. And I think this year, compared to last year, the track position's been quite a bit more important with the attack modes. Last year you could take attack mode and you could overtake the cars pretty easily, but this year it's been quite a bit more difficult to overtake the cars even in attack mode. Alright, so at this point it was Boemi in first, Evans in second, Vern in second, Fenestraz in third, and Evans in fourth. So at this point Evans had lost 4 positions just to take attack mode. Lap 8, Dennis overtakes DaCosta for 9th. Lap 9, Boemi takes attack mode, but critically stays ahead of Evans. So the overcut for the attack mode proved to be really powerful today. And everyone's basically cutting the chicane. So the turn 1-2 chicane that they've added for this race isn't actually part of this circuit the last time they raced it with touring cars. And they basically have painted it so that there's part of where the chicane is supposed to be, but every driver is going off of it every lap. So but they're somehow arbitrarily deciding that there's some point that they have to stick to. So not great. I think they probably should have realized that was going to be a problem the whole time. So I think either they should do something like with Formula 1 where they have it so every time you go over it's a track limit violation, but it seems like they weren't as strict as that on that, so it was unfortunately kind of chaotic. Alright, so lap 10, Vern takes attack mode and again stays ahead of Evans, showing that Jaguar's strategy on attack mode was not great today. Lap 11, Energy was pretty close. Fenestraz takes attack mode, stays in 4th, so he's 4th in kind of the 4-car train. And there was very little energy advantage for Porsche today. So the critical thing in the first 3 races was that Porsche had a massive energy advantage in the races. And today it didn't show up as much. I don't think they had that much, maybe a little, but definitely a lot less significant than the first 3 races. Cassidy overtakes Gunther, and lap 12. So this is probably the biggest moment of the race. So going into turn 3, Bird looks like he tries to overtake Fenestraz or Gunther for, I think it was Fenestraz for 4th. And he basically comes from really far back, tries to go down the inside, and he just outbrakes himself. And in the process, he basically spins Evans around and basically traps both Gunther and Fenestraz in the corner, taking them all out. So, of course, number one rule in racing is don't take out your teammate. And on the radio right away, he was super apologetic. So there's probably going to be some pretty stiff words in the garage afterwards. So, not great. Let's see. Yes. So then right after this, luckily there was no safety car or anything. So the race just kept going. Evans and Bird both pitted, basically retired, and Fenestraz and Gunther dropped to the back because they were basically trapped in the corner behind both Evans and Bird. So lap 14, John-Eric Verne takes attack mode, and then Buemi takes attack mode as well, a lap later on lap 15. And in this, Cassidy had basically managed to close an almost 2-second gap between Verne and Bird in 1st and 2nd, and himself, who is now in 3rd. So he had closed the gap almost immediately in 1 lap, and the commentators and I were super surprised that was happening as well. I was really surprised that he managed to close that gap so quickly. So lap 16, Cassidy takes attack mode, stays ahead of Buemi. Raz da Costa and Nato also take attack mode. Cassidy overtakes Dennis for 2nd place on lap 17, and lap 18, Nato pits. Dennis takes attack mode, is now behind Buemi and in 4th place. Lap 20, Cassidy and Dennis have slightly more energy than those round, but not a lot. Gunther gets a penalty for track limits, Roland as well. At this point, Roland was in 7th or 8th place, and Gunther was at the back, so he's just miles off. Lap 23, Dennis seemed like he was in car trouble. He reported on the radio that every 10 seconds he was getting some error on his dashboard, but he wasn't dropping too much. Now this is the second pivotal point of the race. So at this point, the safety car comes out because Hughes just crashed at the exit of turn 3. Looked like he just came out of the corner, maybe went a bit too hard on throttle and just spun into the wall. However, he said on the radio that the mirror got stuck behind the steering wheel, which doesn't really make sense. I guess maybe the steering wheel broke off and then landed in the cockpit and got stuck behind the wheel, which I don't know. I'm not sure. We don't really know what happened there. And then on the lap 26, so the safety car is still out. The commentators are talking, and they're noting that the Jaguar powertrains all day have seemed to be really strong, seem to be the strongest powertrain today. That's probably true given that both Jaguars and both Envision cars were in the top 6-7 places, but somehow Verne was still in 1st. So safety car comes in and Rast basically outbrakes himself at the turn 3 and goes over the back of Dennis, slows down immediately with a broken car, probably broken front wing and maybe suspension as well. Roland moves up to 6th, and Dennis pits at the end of the lap with a puncture. So really unfortunate for Dennis, who is in 3rd, 4th place at this point, and there's obviously going to be pretty strong championship implications, given that he was 2nd in the championship, miles clear of everyone besides him and Verline. Lap 28, Cassidy tries to go around the outside again of turn 3. It's not working, so Verne's doing an excellent job of just making sure that he blocks the inside of turn 3 going into the hairpin, which is the only real opportunity to overtake on this track. But again, it's extremely dusty on the inside, so he has to be extremely cautious on the brakes every time. Lap 29, Verne gets black and white flag for track limits, so he's right on the edge of going through that 1-2 chicane, it seems. Lap 30, they've decided that there's only one added lap after the race because of the safety car. Da Costa overtakes Roland for 4th. Lap 32, Cassidy has a lot more energy than Verne. Van Doorn and Degrassi both got a 5-second penalty for track limits on lap 32. So on the last lap, Verne in 1st, Cassidy right behind in 2nd. But Cassidy has about 5% energy at this point. Verne only has a single percent. And basically, same thing, turn 3, Vern takes the inside at the chicane and just manages to coast all the way through the rest of the lap. And so basically Cassidy's stuck behind and can't get ahead at all. So basically, end of additional lap, lap 33, Vern takes the win. It's crazy that he took the win. I think he did an excellent job defending the last couple laps and just managing battery. I think Cassidy probably should have been a little bit more aggressive the last 3-4 laps. They kept saying, oh, wait till the last lap, wait till the last lap, the commentators. But, you know, I think he probably should have just tried to go for the move a bit earlier, be a bit more aggressive. So right after the race, they announced that Buemi was under investigation for overpowering, so going above 300 or 350 kilowatts per hour. And he announced shortly after that he got a 17-second penalty, which is the equivalent of a drive-through. So he basically drops from 3rd on the podium all the way to the back. So the race result was 1st, Jean-Eric Verne, 2nd, Nick Cassidy, 3rd, DaCosta, 4th, Verline somehow ending up in 4th, 5th, Sergio Seni-Camara, 6th, Roland despite having a 5-second penalty, 7th, Nato, 8th, Van Dorn, 9th, Lauderer, 10th, Mortara, 11th, Muller, 12th, Van Estras, 13th, Gunther, 14th, Degrassi, 15th, Buemi, 16th, Dennis. Retirements were Bard, Hughes, Rast, Evans, Ticktum, and Van der Linde. So pretty chaotic races. I think 2 real big moments there that really defined the race. The first was Bard taking 3 other cars out at the hairpin, and the second was Rast kind of going over Dennis. So championship standings after the race. First was Verline with 80 points. 2nd is Dennis with 62 points. 3rd is Verne with 31 points, ahead on countback over Buemi. In 4th also with 31 points. 5th was Cassidy with 28. 6th was Bird with again 28. 7th Hughes 27th. 8th Rast 26. 9th DaCosta 21 points. 10th Degrassi 18 points, all from the first podium in Mexico. 11th Lauder 16 points. 12th Evans 14. 13th Sergio Seni-Camara 10 points. 14th Roland 8 points. 15th Nato 7 points. Van Dorn 5 points. And 16th Van Estras 4 points. And 17th for Nissan. 18th Mortara 3 points. And 19th Ticktum 1 point. And Gunther, Muller, and Van der Linde still all on 0 points. So that's all for the Hyderabad ePrix. I think overall pretty solid first race. Overtaking seems to be pretty tricky, only one real spot. Hopefully next year they get rid of that chicane. I think it was only added for safety reasons, or maybe they were concerned about not having enough energy. But overall, pretty fun course. Looked like there was a lot of fans there, so that was great to see. And that's all for the race ramble for this ePrix. So I'll be back again this week with my power rankings after the Hyderabad ePrix. Thank you so much for watching, and please like and subscribe if you enjoy the video. Please comment down below with your thoughts on the race, and I'll see you.